According to flow psychology, a messiah complex is a state of mind in which an individual holds a belief that they are destined to become a savior today or in the near future. Cult leader David Koresh, who believed he was a final prophet, had a tumultuous and lonely childhood and adolescence, became a leader of the Branch Davidians cult in Waco, Texas, until his abusive and delusional reign ended to himself and his 79 captives and followers on April 19, 1993, by a combination of gunshots and fire set to the cult's compound. Here's a picture of David Koresh about 5 to 6 years before his death. According to James Tabor and Eugene Gallagher, Koresh acknowledged on a videotape sent out of the compound during the standoff before his death that he had fathered more than 12 children by several wives in fulfillment of his delusional prophecy. Federal agents were sent in part to scope out these reports of child sexual abuse to underage females in hopes to set free the inhabitants, but to no avail before their tragic death. David Koresh was born as Vernon Wayne Howell on August 17, 1959 in Houston, Texas, to a 14-year-old mother and a 19-year-old father who abandoned his mother for another teenage girl before Koresh was born, according to Colin Wilson, and due to this, he never met his biological father. His mother later cohabitated with a violent alcoholic and later gave up Koresh when he was 4 years old to live with this alcoholic, leaving Koresh with his maternal grandmother until her return when he reached age 7, after she later married a carpenter. He described his childhood as lonely, according to Wilson, and was labeled dyslexic and placed in special education classes at age 14 before dropping out of high school his junior year. He impregnated a 14-year-old girl when he was 19 years old, later becoming a born-again Christian when he became delusional that he was meant to be with a church pastor's daughter before being kicked out of the church, according to Wilson. In 1981, Koresh joined the Branch Davidians cult, where he played guitar and sang in church services at the Mount Carmel Center outside Waco, Texas. According to Wilson, Koresh had an affair with another cult member's wife and claimed their future son was supposed to be the chosen one, as well as wrote a manifesto called The Serpent's Root. He later believed he would be martyred in America according to his prophecies. The current leader of the Branch Davidians at the time, named George Roden, saw Koresh as a threat to his power and attempted many times to overthrow Koresh in his growing lead, especially after their trip to Israel, when Roden dug up a corpse in an attempt to get Koresh to prove he was the Messiah. By raising the dead. After killing another cult member, Roden was placed in an insane asylum in 1989. However, he continued to try to file lawsuits against Koresh even after his placement. According to Clifford Leyendecker, Koresh, who was still legally Vernon Howell, had his name legally changed on August 28, 1990 in California to his new first name David, in his delusion that he descends from the line of David from biblical times, and last name Koresh, in his delusion that Koresh, another name for the Persian king Cyrus, who freed the Jews from captivity for public and business purposes. Because of these delusions, that he was reviving the house of David according to David Bromley and Edward Silver through his lineage, Koresh fathered many illegitimate children in the Mount Carmel compound before he took over from Roden. The FBI became involved when reports of sexual abuse and child abuse were leaked by ex-cult members, but because the cult kept these illegitimate marriages and children secret, none could prove he was indeed abusing members of the cult. On February 28, 1993, Authorities took siege of the Waco property, pumping gas into the compound in attempts to flush Koresh and followers out of the building. Instead, many inhabitants were shot within the compound, presumably by another member, who then killed himself, according to the Washington Post, before the entire building caught on fire, killing all members within the building. One more visual aid I have for you. It's a picture of the compound when it was burning. This is a very famous picture. After a childhood filled with tragedy, loneliness, and being labeled as a special education student, David Koresh's rise to his status as a cult leader, who then died along with his followers, serves as an important reminder not to trust charismatic leaders who claim to be prophets, messiahs, or fathers of messiahs. There are currently no technical DSM-5 guidelines for patients with the Messiah complex, but is widely correlated with bipolar and schizophrenic tendencies related to delusions of grandeur. This is extremely relevant in today's world with fake news and all the false messiahs we face or will face in the future who believe they were sent to save mankind. According to the National Alliance on Mental Illness, 1 in 25 adults will be diagnosed with a serious mental illness each year, and 50% of all lifetime mental illness begins by age 14, and 75% by age 24. If you believe someone is experiencing acute hazardous delusions of grandeur, contact your local police department for assistance. Thank you.